Welcome back to Stoic Wisdom. We live in a world where labels and assumptions about the opposite sex often cloud our understanding. But true wisdom, as Marcus Aurelius teaches, lies not in judgment, but in understanding human nature. Today, let us examine the psychological traits that can be considered weaknesses in women, not to criticize, but to better understand and navigate relationships with a sense of Stoic wisdom. Women often experience emotions with greater intensity, a trait that can be both a source of strength and vulnerability. This emotional depth enables women to form deep connections and empathize with others. However, it can also lead to emotional overwhelm. When emotions are left unchecked, they can cloud judgment, create unnecessary stress, and sometimes make it difficult to think rationally in challenging situations. In the context of relationships and personal struggles, emotional overload can result in impulsive decisions or overreaction, which may not always reflect the true nature of the situation. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot always control our emotions, we can control how we respond to them. It encourages emotional awareness and acceptance, rather than suppression or denial. The key is to recognize emotions as transient and not allow them to dictate our actions or beliefs. By practicing mindfulness and understanding the root causes of our feelings, we can manage our emotional responses more effectively. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions, but rather understanding their impermanence and choosing to act from a place of inner calm and reason. For women, embracing Stoic wisdom can provide a sense of emotional clarity, allowing them to navigate challenges without becoming overwhelmed by feelings. In doing so, they can transform a potential weakness into a source of strength, demonstrating resilience and emotional maturity in the face of life's difficulties. One of the most prominent challenges many women face is their tendency to seek external validation. This desire for approval, whether from family, friends, or romantic partners, can create a constant need for reassurance. While seeking validation is a natural human behavior, when it becomes excessive, it can undermine self-confidence and cause unnecessary anxiety. Women may feel inadequate if they don't receive affirmation or recognition, and this can lead to a sense of dependence on others for self-worth. Stoicism teaches us that true self-worth comes from within and that we should not let the opinions of others dictate our sense of value. According to Stoic principles, external events are beyond our control, but our reactions to them are not. By focusing on what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and decisions, we can build a strong foundation of self-assurance that is not swayed by the approval or disapproval of others. This internal validation, cultivated through self-reflection, self-discipline, and a commitment to personal growth, leads to greater emotional resilience and independence. For women, embracing this Stoic mindset involves recognizing that their worth is inherent, not dependent on the external world. While validation from others can be a pleasant reinforcement, it should not be the measure of one's self-worth. When women learn to trust their own judgments, strengths, and capabilities, they free themselves from the constant need for external validation. This shift allows for a more grounded, common psychological challenge many women face is the tendency to overthink or dwell on situations, often leading to unnecessary stress. This inclination towards overanalyzing can be a double-edged sword. While it sometimes leads to careful consideration and decision-making, it can also cause a woman to become trapped in cycles of doubt and insecurity. Overthinking often amplifies minor issues, creating problems that weren't initially there. It can lead to feelings of helplessness or frustration, especially when the imagined scenarios never come to pass. From a Stoic perspective, overthinking is a form of mental turbulence. The Stoics taught that peace of mind comes from focusing on what is within our control and accepting what is beyond it. Overthinking distracts us from the present moment, which is all we truly possess. It leads to an unnecessary accumulation of thoughts about potential problems or situations that may never even happen. The key, according to Stoic wisdom, is to focus on our thoughts and actions at this moment, not allowing the mind to drift into imagined futures or replay past conversations. The Stoics would advise women to practice mindfulness and discipline of thought. When confronted with a stressful situation, instead of overanalyzing or assuming the worst, the Stoic approach is to accept the situation as it is and focus on what can be done in the present. This mental clarity, derived from Stoic principles, helps to reduce anxiety and prevents unnecessary stress. By learning to stop the cycle of overthinking, women can regain control over their mental well-being, adopting a calmer, more centered approach to life. Seaful existence where confidence is not dictated by outside opinions, but by an inner understanding of one's own value and purpose. A significant weakness many women may experience is a tendency to seek external validation, which can undermine their sense of self-worth. This psychological trait often arises from a desire for approval or recognition from others, particularly from men or people in positions of authority. The need for validation can manifest in various ways, such as constantly seeking compliments, approval, or attention, and it may affect decisions and actions in daily life. While seeking validation is a natural human tendency, when it becomes a pattern, it can hinder personal growth and emotional stability. From a Stoic standpoint, external validation is a fragile foundation for self-worth. The Stoics believed that true contentment comes from within, and that one's sense of self should not depend on the judgments of others. Marcus Aurelius, in his personal reflections, often reminded himself to focus on his own integrity and actions rather than seeking praise or approval from others. The Stoic view is that our value is intrinsic and independent of how others perceive us. This perspective helps foster inner peace as one becomes less reliant on external factors to feel validated. For women, this Stoic approach can be liberating. Rather than seeking approval from others to confirm their worth, they are encouraged to cultivate a strong sense of self from within. They are empowered to make decisions based on their own values, and their confidence grows as they detach from the need for external praise. By focusing on internal validation, on self-awareness, personal growth, and emotional resilience, a woman can regain control over her emotions and actions. This is the Stoic path to true self-confidence and peace of mind. A common psychological weakness observed in many women is the tendency to prioritize the needs and desires of others over their own, often to their detriment. This self-sacrificial behavior can arise from a deep-seated desire to nurture and care for those around them, but it can also lead to neglecting their own emotional and physical needs. Whether in personal relationships, work environments, or family dynamics, this pattern of putting others first can cause feelings of exhaustion, resentment, and a diminished sense of self. From a Stoic perspective, this behavior contradicts the idea of maintaining personal boundaries and understanding one's own value. The Stoics taught that one must first be in harmony with themselves before they can effectively contribute to the well-being of others. They emphasized the importance of self-care and self-awareness, recognizing that a person who neglects their own needs cannot be truly present or effective for others. Marcus Aurelius, for instance, often reflected on the necessity of balancing personal duty with self-respect, reminding himself to avoid the traps of overextension and to focus on what is within his control. In practical terms, women who struggle with overextending themselves can benefit from adopting Stoic principles that prioritize self-awareness and internal harmony. By learning to recognize their own limits and needs, women can shift from a pattern of constant self-sacrifice to one of balance. This approach does not diminish their capacity for care or love, but rather ensures that they are able to offer it in a healthy, sustainable manner. The Stoic path encourages individuals to value themselves, setting boundaries that allow them to thrive while still being present for others. By doing so, they preserve their emotional strength and contribute to a more meaningful, balanced life. Another psychological weakness that many women may face is the tendency to doubt their own abilities or worth, often leading to self-sabotage. This internalized self-doubt can stem from societal pressures, unrealistic expectations, or even past experiences where their contributions were undervalued. It manifests in a lack of confidence that prevents them from seizing opportunities, speaking up in situations where their voices need to be heard, or pursuing personal goals with conviction. This internal struggle can be paralyzing, as it holds them back from realizing their full potential. From a Stoic perspective, This mindset is rooted in an over-reliance on external validation and approval. The Stoics believed that true strength comes from within, through the cultivation of self-discipline and inner fortitude. They understood that external events or the opinions of others are beyond one's control and therefore should not dictate a person's sense of worth or ability. Marcus Aurelius, in particular, emphasized the importance of aligning one's actions with virtue rather than seeking external praise. By doing so, a person builds an internal foundation of confidence that is not easily shaken by the fluctuations of outside circumstances. For women who struggle with self-doubt, the Stoic practice of focusing on what is within their control is transformative. Rather than seeking external approval, they can start by affirming their own intrinsic worth and recognizing their accomplishments, no matter how small they may seem. Through consistent self-reflection and action, they can build the confidence needed to face challenges head-on and pursue their aspirations. Stoicism encourages women to free themselves from the tyranny of self-doubt by trusting in their own judgment and capabilities, allowing them to navigate life with resilience and purpose. One of the psychological weaknesses that many women experience is a tendency to overly prioritize the needs and feelings of others, often at the expense of their own well-being. This inclination to put others first can result in self-neglect and emotional burnout. In relationships, whether personal or professional, they may feel compelled to nurture, support, and care for others, sometimes to the detriment of their own emotional and physical health. This self-sacrificing behavior is often driven by a desire to be seen as caring, loving, or valuable, leading them to constantly give without replenishing themselves. From a Stoic standpoint, this weakness arises from a failure to recognize the importance of balance and self-respect. The Stoics believed in the principle of moderation, where one must care for others without losing sight of their own needs. Stoicism emphasizes that self-care is not selfish. In fact, it is necessary for personal growth and the ability to contribute meaningfully to the well-being of others. By neglecting their own needs, individuals can inadvertently create a cycle of emotional depletion, leaving them less capable of offering genuine support to those they care about. To overcome this weakness, Stoicism encourages individuals to cultivate a sense of inner strength and resilience which is rooted in self-awareness and the understanding that they have the right to set boundaries. Women should learn to value their own time, energy, and emotions, understanding that by caring for themselves, first they are better equipped to help others. Through self-reflection and intentional action, they can shift from a pattern of constant self-sacrifice to one of balanced reciprocity, where both their needs and the needs of others are met in a healthy and sustainable way. Another psychological weakness that some women may experience is an over-reliance on external validation to feel valued or worthy. In many cases, this stems from societal pressures or a lifetime of being conditioned to seek approval from others, particularly in personal and professional spheres. Whether it's through social media likes, compliments, or acknowledgement from peers, the desire for validation can be a powerful driving force. However, relying too heavily on this external feedback can lead to a fragile sense of self-worth, where their value fluctuates with the opinions of others. From a Stoic perspective, this reliance on external validation is problematic because it places one's sense of self in the hands of others, something entirely outside their control. The Stoics taught that true strength comes from within, not from the fluctuating opinions or judgments of others. Marcus Aurelius, in particular, emphasized that one should base their actions on virtue and wisdom, not on the approval or disapproval of others. This inner strength allows an individual to maintain a steady course, regardless of external circumstances or opinions. For women dealing with this weakness, the path to overcoming it lies in developing a deeper connection to their own values, desires, and abilities. By grounding their sense of self-worth in their inner principles and actions, they can detach from the need for constant external approval. This shift allows them to focus on what truly matters, leading to a more fulfilling and authentic life. Stoicism encourages individuals to define their worth from within and build resilience by aligning actions with personal values, rather than being subject to the changing tides of external feedback. In conclusion, the wisdom of Stoicism invites us to recognize these weaknesses, not to diminish or judge, but to understand and manage them with patience and composure. We all have vulnerabilities, and by acknowledging them with humility, we can work to transcend them. By practicing the Stoic principles of self-control, acceptance, and detachment, we rise above our weaknesses and embrace the strength that lies within us. The true path to wisdom is one of understanding ourselves and others, accepting what we cannot change, and striving for virtue above all.